Welcome to another episode, Wiseman Wrestling Podcast, featuring the AEW champion. Look at that.
Right.
Where?
He's got the cool
Not John Moxley.
and little notch on his sleeve.
And that's more like Knoxley.
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 Rod Knoxley.
JB gonna come hit you with a chair for that belt, though.
Yeah. That's what happened. He attacked me a lot lately.
But like, yo, you got my belt, kid. Like, what's up?
That's funny.
You bought that for me fair and square.
He's gonna come in. JB's gonna come in like,
with all due respect, shut the hell up. I don't want to hear that.
I literally can imagine JB with like a Stephen A. voice too, man.
What's funny is I just went ham because we did for the Madden League we did a off season Zoom meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just playing around and just went,
Who was on crack?
we were talking about why that player dropped in the draft. Well, he was on crack. So yeah, it was pretty fun. We had interactions and stuff like that. So here we are, wrestling time.
Yeah, what happened this week?
No, I mean it was like a good episode of pretty decent episode of Raw.
Stop it,
I'm just joking.
bro. I didn't even watch it.
Off the damn weed.
Yeah, for sure. Bruh.
No,
How you gonna cut your first promo? Yo, like, we're a super team promo after you got your butt whooped twice.
Yeah.
Like, at first I thought, like, they played it out of order, like that promo was supposed to come before everything, but then he literally mentioned that they just got their ass handed to him. I was like, I'm sad now.
that's where the Retribution name comes from.
I'm sad.
I got nothing. I really don't got anything for that.
Like, nothing makes sense on Raw, so.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I know Rod disagreed with me, and that's cool. But that's why I was like, yo, just have the Fiend go grab the money in the bank.
I was
It had to be creepy as hell.
No,
just have him fuck with people. I don't even want him to
cash.
cash it in. Just fuck with people.
Yeah, there's a storyline. I thought that the storyline is that the Miz has got it in court or something like that, trying to get
Yeah.
it. So it's like, yeah. I mean,
Well, we know they're going to take it off Otis because it makes no sense to have it on him. Never made sense.
What do you mean, Otis? We haven't seen Otis, and now we see El Gran Gordo.
Right.
I was waiting for like someone like Ray to like speak up like, bruh, that ain't cool.
I mean, it's typical for the guy that they've made Otis into. You know, it's like he was a freak in NXT. They were doing great stuff, and then they come over here, and it's become a complete sideshow. So it's like it's kind of on par for his character. But I don't have anything for that either. It's like, yeah, the little lunchbox wasn't a telltale. He kind of reminded me of was it Happy Gilmore, the principal?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't doubt that idea wasn't stolen from. So, yeah. Or
So good.
Billy Madison, not Happy Gilmore.
Right.
Same terrible shit. So let's get into this episode.
Let's do this. You guys could pick wherever you want to start because I just wrote down.
We could just start at the top. So this was an entry by you.
Yeah.
So go
ahead.
ahead. If you want.
All right. Well, the rest of the show, Glow, which was based on the women's wrestling promotion that was in Vegas back in, what was that, late 80s, early 90s? I think something like that. Was canceled in a what?
Mid-80s, yeah.
Okay. Was canceled in the middle of its fourth season due to COVID restrictions to its filming schedule. The story isn't that, though. The story is actually based on concerns raised by the crew and staff regarding representation of minorities on the show, as it specifically relates to the backstories of minority wrestlers versus white wrestlers on the show. Basically, what was going on was the show started off featuring the white women and sprinkled in some stories about the minority women here or there. Obviously, if anybody watched Glow, one of the most unfortunate parts of Glow was that it heavily bit off racist stereotypes. They literally had welfare mama as a character. They had a Russian Nazi. They had your traditional Asian woman, kung fu girl. Now, on the show, while the white wrestler characters got these like beautiful backstories and stories about how they were struggling through doing this, the minority characters felt that they weren't getting the same representation. Now, may this be a fictional show? Again, I want to say fortunately and unfortunately I watched the show because my mom loved it. If you watched the show, you knew these people didn't care anything about minorities. So it's almost historically factual that they wouldn't be featured if you're having a show on it. Where's that line drawn? Should they be making up stories just to have more representation, or hit on the actual factual that no one gave a damn about these people during that time?
I always took it as a period piece, and because of that, that's pretty accurate. Like, that's how, well, first of all, it's not so fictional. Those were actual characters on the show.
I was just talking about the storylines in the show. Some of them are fictional. But yes, for the most part, it is based on the true story of how this happened.
Yeah. But no, I remember the voodoo lady.
Yeah, I forgot about the voodoo lady.
So I remember her. I mean, I remember Glow from the 80s.
Yeah.
I remember the voodoo lady. I remember the Middle Eastern woman that was a terrorist.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. So it's historically accurate now, and that's the way I always taken it. I guess there's a couple of characters on the show that I guess didn't get sort of the background treatment.
And that's what the gripe is about. Now, and I won't say gripe, that's what the feedback was. Out of fairness, the writers had written episodes later in the season that kind of fleshed those stories out, but it was Netflix who made the call to cancel the show, not the writers.
Right. So at this point, it's just that we didn't get a chance to get to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So to speak.
Basically.
So, I mean, I guess I would be interested in hearing more details on what the gripes were and what the fixes were. Because I can just imagine that, well, if we're going to end the show at this point, it didn't do everything that it could have done.
Correct. Like, I did have a problem with the initial representation of Welfare Mama, because it seems like an attempt was made to provide backstory, because she had a son who came to watch her wrestle, and he was initially embarrassed that she was being Welfare Mama, but then saw how much she loved what she was doing, so he accepted it, which kind of left me kind of conflicted. But other than that, you don't really see much backstory culturally into any of these characters.
I don't know. I guess I never just suspected this particular show to be all of that.
Right. And that's maybe, I agree with you there. I never expected this to be a deep show.
And
You
I
know,
thought, I particularly thought that episode, the Welfare Mama episode, was like one of the standout episodes of the series,
mm-hmm.
in my opinion.
I can agree with you on there.
We know that wouldn't be acceptable today.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. Based on some of the stuff we see on TV, I'm not sure anymore. But I mean, Vince will pull it if he can.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the main reason I wanted to bring this up, because I just wanted to ask both of you, what examples of bad cultural representation in pro wrestling stick out to you?
Where do you want to begin?
I'm just saying, like, what's the one that, like, yo, fuck you?
I mean, the initial introduction to Retribution to me.
Okay.
Was the one
that's fairly recent. I'm down with that. Yeah, I agree with you there.
No, we're just talking about recently, right? Like,
yeah, no, you could. I was going back to Hakeem.
Oh, Hakeem the Dream. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and the messed up thing is, back then, I didn't even know they were trying to make fun of Dusty Rhodes, because I really didn't watch anything but WWE back then.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, you trying to convince me this mofo was from Africa, strike one. And then he spoke with Jive, strike two. Like, yeah, it that was just blatant. I mean, yeah, then you have Roddy Piper.
If we're gonna stay in the '80s, then I mean, yeah, there's plenty. But that, to me, once again, that was of that era.
Yeah,
it was wrong, but I mean, it's too many from that era.
Yeah,
in my opinion. I mean, I didn't like what was it? Bruce Pritchard's character. Never really
Brother Love
him either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of what they were making fun of.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, Southern Baptists and, that sort of thing. Like, that didn't sit well with me either. But then there's just so many things. And then the beauty of it now is, like, we get to get, like, some of those backstories of how they came up with these concepts, so to really see. Because, like, I kind of had a problem with Kamala until I heard the story of it. And then I was more good with it afterwards. So, and to me, that's where I draw the line. It's who came up with the concept and what were they trying to get across. Because I feel much better when people come up with the concept by themselves. Like, for example, Rationale. We've seen her a couple of times on AEW.
Mm-hmm.
She is La Fashionista. She's got this real kind of ratchet, like, gimmick that is a bit polarizing depending on how you're looking at it. But I feel good about that gimmick because she came up with it on her own as a character she wants to portray. And she's actually really good in the ring. And it's her that got her over versus, somebody else coming up with that gimmick for television.
I'll tell you one that hit me, and that was the N-words.
Okay.
The N-words kind of hit me hard, surprisingly. I won't say surprisingly, but I'm not sure if it was you or Alejandro who first told me about these guys before we went to a show, but I almost thought y'all were kidding, like legit. And for those that don't know, there's a tag team in Chicago's Freelance who literally call themselves the N-words and fashioning themselves to be urban black youth. Like, I'll just say it like that. Down to the do-rags and, moves and everything like that. So, I've never been a fan of people kind of celebrating bad stereotypes. So to see that purposely done in a white crowd, let's not kid ourselves there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, would I have felt differently if they were on the South or West Side? Maybe. But to play that up in front of a crowd in Logan Square, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how I feel. I was conflicted, very much so. You know, and especially in freelance where, you know, it's not like a booker telling them that's their gimmick. Like these guys came up with their gimmick and like, yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, I not to say that I feel it's right, but I do feel differently versus gimmicks like in WWE where people are handed their gimmicks, like Crime Time, you know, versus N-words where, you know, they're in the back like, yo, let's do this. It'll be cool. And you can't make no merch off of it. Can't make no merch money off that.
I think they did all right.
Did they have any merch?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, for me, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, I get it.
Thought that gimmick was genius, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Because they use it to try to play off of, like if you look at their gear, it's like NWO based.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of reworked the NWO stuff into it. And to me, that's where the genius came from. Using Straight Outta Compton as the music. And just seeing, like, I saw it a long time ago and just how they use that in terms of matches and in the ring and things like that. Like, that's, to me, that's the definition of owning it versus it being given to you. So it was kind of like a spoof of, and that's the way freelance, to me, when I first saw freelance back in the day, that was like how it came off to me. That they were kind of taking these things that WWE had no business doing and kind of just owning it themselves. Like, we get to do this. You guys don't get to do this.
Yeah, because you were hyping up freelance back in the Bottom Lounge days.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some special shows. Just, I mean, in the same token, Rob Anthony,
yeah,
was a luchador from.
I remember this story about.
You know what I mean, from wherever, Illinois. You know what I mean. And they had a clown tag team that modeled themselves after the Undertaker and Kane. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's all good fun. But go ahead, Ray.
As like one of the couple ones that stood out to me, especially like in the 80s, was Piper's Pit. He said some stupid shit. I think at one WrestleMania, he painted his face half black, and he was having.
Yeah, he was going up against Mr. T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one that kind of stood out to me that pissed me off the most, as I started getting older and started learning and educating myself, the JBL, the illegal alien skit, where he was uber all-American, hunting down anti-Mexicans like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, that illegal alien bullshit. It's like, come on, Rey Mysterio was born in fucking San Diego. Who the fuck are you fooling, man? It's like, there's been a lot of shit, man. It's been a fucking lot of shit. It's like, even you can go to like the Triple H when he explained the black wrestlers and the world championships.
Oh,
that whole fucking segment. I mean, it's been, every era's had this.
Mm-hmm.
Every era has had this, so it's not like nothing's exempt from anything.
So I mean, if they handle certain things correctly, but I mean, it's the WWE that you can't trust.
Agreed.
When it comes to stuff like that, we got to figure out how to do it because there's stories there. It's always going to be the elephant in the room until it gets written into the show properly. And
Correct.
I mean, gosh, just so many things that happened this year that couldn't be translated to television, because there's not a smart person in the room to handle it, correctly. And then you got to worry about whether or not the wrestlers themselves have the freedom to express certain views. You know what I mean? While things are happening and they're supposed to be in this universe. Whereas at most you get Kofi Kingston and Big E wearing armbands in, saying to honor those who lost their lives this year. But then you have somebody like Jay White who has the freedom to make his own T-shirt and raise his own money to donate to the cause. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Don't think it will happen to WWE because politics.
Basically.
So we have to get to a point where we can talk about it. We can incorporate these things into the storylines. The WWE has always been art imitates life, all the way up until it gets something that they're uncomfortable with, and then they stay away from it, or they handle it, in a complete wrong way. But we got to get to this point where we're incorporating these things into storyline because it's life. We can't avoid it.
The problem that I see it, and this is one of the questions I was just going to ask you. I chose not to put it in the outline because I wanted to ask you guys.
Mm-hmm.
We attended that AEW show and we kind of saw how it was being out in essentially like MAGA country. When has wrestling ever really catered to minorities? Never. So why do we expect them to do anything less than weak representations of minority groups? Asians. Not all Asians are fucking ninjas.
No. Not all Hispanics are luchadors.
We're not luchadors. We're not gangbangers.
Right.
Not all black guys are fucking criminals and shit like that. All this shit mentality that they got like that. It's like there's a reason why when you go to these shows, they don't look like you and I when we go to these shows because they've never catered to us.
Well, I mean, there's several reasons for that, and I believe that there's so many people who are fighting to change that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for myself, when CM Punk came on my radar, that's when I started paying attention to wrestling again, because to me that was, and it still is, a tipping point. From it really kind of drove that thing home that these gimmicks are not really all that they're cracked up to be, practically dead, and that they're gonna have to start dealing with real people in real situations.
Right.
Now, did the main company get to that right away? No, but what CM Punk did on that day, and even leading up to that day, and during his entire run, inspired a lot of these situations to start being more real, start pushing that envelope. I have to believe that more independent companies started because they saw that things weren't going to change in the main company, not by just strictly from the inside. People were coming out of the situation like, no, it's not hidden. And, I think to me, it just takes time. This is the time that it takes to change.
So now the question that I want to ask you guys, because I kind of drew a parallel to it with baseball. Baseball has dwindling numbers with African Americans.
Correct.
My thought process in wrestling is, how do you get minorities to come to this to get more engaged with wrestling? If in this age that we said, representation matters. We don't see a lot of it. What has to change for them to be able to appeal now in 2020? We're talking about in 2020 now. It's crazy that we're having this conversation. You know, what can you do to draw an audience? Not even just the audience, wrestlers, especially. I don't know if I've made the assumption that because of wrestling's checkered past, that it has kind of pushed people away from getting engaged, whether it's as a fan, as a consumer, or as an actual wrestler itself. What are the processes? I mean, baseball's trying to do it, but they're not going to be able. It's
I disagree. I don't think baseball's trying.
No, you could put out these little cute commercials during every World Series showing kids playing, but we know, like in Chicago with the Jackie Robinson team,
right?
that you see when we talk about representation matters, the entire city of Chicago lit up with those kids, and then as soon as it was taken away from them, interest in Little League baseball, we haven't really talked about it again. So it's just I'm trying to see.
I can attack this from so many different perspectives.
Right.
I have no expectations on large organizations to do anything for us. And I think that's the biggest thing. Black people need to stop seeking approval from situations that never catered to them in the first place. And that just goes across the board.
Correct.
When we can see fit to do for ourselves versus get it from somebody else, like we will be better off because then we will lift up our own. If we all get in those in prominent positions, like that's one angle that I can attack it from because I'm looking at it from the perspective of I don't need another McDonald's commercial with black people in it. I need black McDonald's owners,
right.
Or I need, black restaurant owners, who are willing to start taking control of these corners like McDonald's does.
Yeah.
Another perspective could be that minorities need to go into these situations with a backbone and a plan. Instead of just accepting what's given to them. You may get $1 million contract, but that's because the organization that you're getting it from can spare it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we need to take more than what they can spare. We need to take what we're worth. And we got to be not afraid to ask for it, to demand it, to hold out for it. You know what I'm saying? To be broke for another couple years. You know what I'm saying? To
right.
Almost in a sense Colin Kaepernick it. You know what I mean? Like we get into these situations uneducated and then we create situations for ourselves where we need to keep accepting what they give us. But we need to go in these situations. We need to go in these situations smarter so that it's a want, it's not a need. And anytime we need to step away from the situation because we're not being respected, that we can do so and it doesn't hurt us. Right now, whether it's money or it's our pride of our dreams, we can't seem to step away from situations that disrespect us and show them that, you need us just as much as we need you. We keep on putting ourselves in situations where we have to keep, saying we create these lifestyles for ourselves to where we can't step away. And that's how we become victimized. And I have no expectations on the organizations being fair until we're the ones that are running the organizations. So until then, we just have to be better about ourselves.
I feel there is a parallel between the decline in African American interest in baseball and the lack of one in from a mainstream standpoint in wrestling. And that is, frankly, because when people look at the screens, there's just basically no one that looks like us from a marketed standpoint. Mm-hmm. The marketed stars from baseball right now are either Hispanic or white. And if they are of darker skin, they're Hispanic. That is a change from back when we were kids.
Absolutely.
There's a difference in funding from when we were kids. Mm-hmm. Ray, I think you can remember when we were playing Little League. I mean, the fields were sponsored by the teams.
Yeah. A lot of them still have
in the hood
Cubs field or soccer field and shit like that. But
the field I play on was sponsored by the White Sox.
Yeah. And
that shit dried up. Not going to tell you why. I'm not going to get into that. No, but about the time I got out of high school, those things stopped. So people stopped playing baseball because, frankly, in these neighborhoods, they don't have the stuff to play ball with. And also what happened, especially in my neighborhood in RP, they started locking up the fields. The field I played on in a week went from somewhere where we can all play pickup ball, a pickup game, to a fenced-in field where we were told we can't play anymore. No one's playing on the field. And you know our little punk asses would hop in the gates to play in the field.
Hell yeah.
But the superintendent would call the cops and clear us from the field. Yeah, that's a similar concept of what happened in wrestling. People tend to forget in the 90s in wrestling, even in the WWE, half the featured roster was black. I mean, we had the Nation of Domination, which had Mark Henry, Ron Simmons, D'Lo, at the time, The Rock, The Godfather. I think he was a different character for a while, though. But I'm just saying, like, that was a squad of black characters. And then The Rock became the biggest star in the whole industry. And you look at the audience during that time, a whole lot more black people than there are now. I do believe what Rod said, that it will ultimately take ownership of a brand, not running it, but ownership of a brand to get people back, because it's going to take that to get a consistent flow of marketed black stars. And it's not just black stars. I mean, we even got to get to a point where Hispanic stars are allowed to embrace their heritage and still be champion.
Yeah, we get a shot to actually wrestle for a title without having to be forced to speak English.
Correct. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit ended with, I think, the last belt Ray had. And even Ray, I don't know. I mean, Ray, you could tell Ray's Hispanic, but Eddie Guerrero was fucking Hispanic.
Damn right he was.
There's a difference. You know, so until those things start happening, you know, we're gonna go to these, you know, AEW, WWE shows, freelance shows, and see mostly white people. And that representation isn't going to be there. It's going to take shows like Black Wrestlers Matter happening over and over again around the country.
Yep. Promotions like GCW.
You know, just doing it. And like Rod said, sacrificing that big paycheck to, you know, grab these small ones on the side. until people start noticing, or until we form our own crowds and stop watching WWE altogether.
Yeah, and it'd also be nice to have a black wrestling school too.
Right, you're definitely right there. Oh wait, there are a couple though, but they don't get talked about as much. We don't mention Booker T, whatever there, but Devon has one.
Mm-hmm.
Devon has one. There's another one. I don't remember his name. I apologize. But
we need it from the perspective of having our own style, whether that be in ring or promo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
To the extent that you come to this school when you want your black characters the same way you go to Mexico when you want luchadors, or you go to Japan when you want, strong style characters.
Yeah, we don't have a style right now. We don't.
Right.
Because most of African American wrestlers were taught by white wrestlers.
Right, but I think we are moving into that next generation.
Who would be your pick, like the most representative, if you had to pick a wrestler and their style?
See, that's the problem. I think Booker T is the best one.
Okay.
That's like what I'm willing to give him credit for in terms of style. You know what I mean? But his greatest export is Kylie Ray.
One person I'd like to see try it, and I think he's already done so on a minor scale, but needs to do so on a bigger scale, is MVP.
Yeah, he's a good one.
We'll see. Well, speaking of WWE,
I'm hoping. I'm sorry. Just one more thing.
No, go ahead.
In my mind, I'm hoping one day when all this opens up, like, we can actually like go to like this other place across the Atlantic Ocean. This collection of countries that make up a continent full of people who I'm sure somewhere in there are interested in professional wrestling.
Somewhere.
Right?
Somewhere.
Just based off the numbers, statistics and all.
Actually, they're probably already there doing it, and they're just not getting the love. So speaking of WWE, does anybody want it?
No.
And I asked that because reports came out from multiple sites, originally from Fightful Select, that earlier this year, both Triple H and Stephanie were offered the executive director position for Raw, and both told Vince to kick rocks.
Yeah, I would have told him to.
But the thing about this is that, like, if you listen to anyone in wrestling prior to last year, I would say, they would have told you that Vince and Stephanie were the heir apparent to this whole show.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think they are. The problem is it's not part of a business plan. It's a part of a will.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So you think they want all or nothing, basically?
I don't think it's them. I think Steph and Triple H and Shane and I don't know. I kind of feel like Bruce is a yes man, but like, any of those higher ups are just interested in putting out a great product and continuing to build on a company that is at the top of the industry. But they all know that, and we got to put it in perspective. It's never going to be a retirement for this guy. As long as Vince is the head, they all see that there's just nothing that they're going to be able to do. If you take that position right now, it's just a figurehead. That's it.
Yeah,
you got an old man hand straight up your butt.
Okay.
And I think it's clear. Maybe they were confused about that.
Have you watched the new Borat movie, man?
But
Not yet. I'm waiting to get out of here.
Over here, man. Right over here, man.
But no, Triple H, didn't he get demoted?
Yeah.
Like
last year. Last November.
Who in their right mind gets a demotion and then wants to do more work?
Man.
Not this guy.
Nah.
Not at that rate.
Well, here's my hot take. My hot take is Triple H and Steph are waiting to do some shit on their own.
That's also a possibility.
I think, both Triple H and Stephanie know this will always in some way be Vince's company. And that's something neither one wants to carry going forward.
Even when Vince actually leaves this earth, the specter and the shadow that they're going to be living in.
And that's what I mean. Like,
it's just
right. Like it will always be Vince's company.
Right. And
it's kind of like being given your dad's car. It's still your dad's car.
If Vince would have it, he probably has it in his will. He has the next 5 years of storylines already printed and typed up, ready to go, to be released upon my untimely death.
Correct. Mr. McMahon will be a character, and somebody will just recast me. Some shit. But yeah, I think definitely based on, I would say the last couple years since he's been running NXT, Triple H has basically shown us in every way, but just saying it on a mic, that he doesn't want anything to do with the main product, if at all possible.
Yeah, I don't see him. NXT is his baby.
Literally, I envision him literally taking everyone who's at NXT. Well, not everyone, of course, but taking Sean, taking Road Dogg, taking that crew that he knows. He like, yo, me and Steph stacked up 50 large. We're gonna go buy a gym and start this shit ourselves. You coming or what?
Wouldn't it be crazy that upon the departure of Vincent, it just dies? Everybody goes their own separate ways.
I wouldn't doubt that happening, to be honest.
Wouldn't the wrestling world be better?
I don't want to go that far.
As far as not so much better. It's just there's no more the Yankees of wrestling.
But I'm saying you kind of need the Yankees.
Yeah,
you need something to suck up a lot of energy in the room.
Well, we were just talking about it. It's like it'd be a perfect opportunity where people can go where they want or start their own brand without having to worry about retribution or being sent home with pay with no t-shirts being sold. It's like there is no possible, they're not gonna, they're free.
They're free. I almost hoped at some point, and I don't believe it's going to happen anymore based on the XFL, but it would have been real entertaining for The Rock to do his own promotion, just from a money standpoint, because he has the money to pull it off.
Mm-hmm. Don't count it out yet. It's like him and Danny Garcia have already put it.
If he gets the right person to run the XFL as opposed to him after, I would say, the first year, then yeah, that's still a possibility.
I mean, he's got a pretty terrific partner in his ex-wife, Danny Garcia. She's been lights out with everything, every move that they've made so far. So,
hey, if you start seeing WWE execs start quitting, then you start listening to shit. But it's going to take somebody like that to, just to bring up from the previous point that we talked about earlier. It's going to have to bring up somebody with like Michael Jordan, Rock type money. Like Michael Jordan just did. He's like, oh, we don't have enough black people in NASCAR. Fuck that. I'm going to make my own team. We're going to make this happen.
That is the Jordan thing to do.
Yeah.
But I'm going to end up going and getting this bullshit ass jumpsuit mechanic.
You're going to do it, man. You're going to do it. You're going to have the car. You're going to have the 23 car, man. It's going to happen.
Go check my front room. I definitely got the shoes to rock for any
There's
time.
gonna be the Jumpman driving shoes. No one else has a fucking NASCAR, but everybody's gonna have the fucking driving shoes.
We were just talking about that prior to me hitting the record button about you wanting those Jordan 1s, the golf shoes.
Hey, I
don't
golf though.
golf that much. I go to Top Golf. I'll still rock them. I don't care.
Right. We'll be the cool kids. Oh. Let's see. Trying to find a happier place here. Do we want to talk about injuries or not?
Well, yeah, we can touch on it briefly. I mean, because it is pretty out there, but it's the same thing. I mean, go ahead.
Basically, another string of injuries have struck everywhere when it comes to wrestling. Was that Phoenix? Both Phoenix and was Alex Reynolds were injured on this week's Dynamite. There were a couple injuries on NXT. There's a couple in the Indies as well. But injuries have seemed to increase recently. Or is it that we're just paying attention?
It's a combination of everything. You know, you're in a pandemic. You're not going to be able to work out the way that you're normally working out. You're thrown in with people that you don't really work with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always the increased, just straight up accidents. So it's a tough time to navigate through it. Look at football. Football's got injuries left and right, and that's just because, I mean,
no preseason. I mean,
no preseason. Baseball had a few injuries because they were ramping up like they were going to the season, and then shut down for 3 months. So it's just a wacky year. Thankfully, we're not seeing any major injuries. I mean, broken jaw is pretty serious for Finn Balor, but he's not going to lose.
He got broken jaw. Ridge Highland busted both his legs. Kyle O'Reilly, he broke his tooth? Something to that effect. And something happened this week as well. So now that we kind of covered the why.
Well, I'm looking at it from the perspective of there's this heightened sense of everybody needs to step their game up.
Okay.
To the point where, you see a lot of more high risk moves.
And that makes sense because both of the injuries that we're seeing are happening on the Wednesday night shows, which are the only ones that really are competing with each other.
Correct.
Right. To me, I feel like in not being in front of full capacity crowds is the opportunity to do something besides go crazy inside of the ring, but it seems like that's the opposite.
Correct.
People are thinking.
Now, should we bring Styles into this? Because we've discussed before how NXT has a certain style versus Raw and SmackDown.
No.
Where it seems to be a more conservative brand of wrestling from a move standpoint.
I wouldn't not the styles of the brands.
Okay.
But like for example, we're getting Dexter Lumis back after a freak, accident, but it wasn't really a freak accident. He did a dive outside of the ring.
Right.
Which if any one of us would conceive that character, he doesn't dive. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Same thing with Ray Phoenix is a crazy person anyway.
Yes,
that's just what they do. But yeah, I mean, you see an increasing number of these over the top, off the top moves on the apron, topes, which is the ugliest move in my opinion of all time. I've never seen a through the rails tope that actually looks good. And I think everybody can stop. Everybody can stop that move. Because it doesn't look good and it's unnecessary. And that, to me, that's what I'm seeing more of the unnecessary from people who, just because you're a babyface, you have to do a dive over the top rope. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't, even though like the people who are not getting injured, like it's not necessary for you to be doing all these moves in a normal setting. And I think now that you're not really in front of crowds, I think you should really focus more on like your character and less on the in-ring product, because you aren't getting that many reps. There are no more house shows. Gyms were shut down for a considerable amount of time. The gym gets shut down at any given time when there's positive COVID test. I would, I would favor more of the protective styles. This has been a great time to get audiences used to, saying those conservative styles of wrestling because of the circumstances.
And we've seen, wrestling Twitter kind of go after these people for the botches and stuff like that, because there's more eyes on it now. Usually you can get away with it with a live audience, but now it's just there's nobody in the crowd and the announcers would try their best. I mean, we saw it with All Out when Slidell slid through.
Slidell.
I was like, these botches or these unsafe work acts that they're, wrestling Twitter continues to call out. This is the time where you don't have to go 200%, but at least focus on what you're doing right now, so everybody walks away and can come back next Wednesday to record.
So my final question on this topic is, what role or responsibilities do promotions have in this trend? Because what we see a stark difference between how people react to the injuries in WWE and the situations that occur in AEW sometimes. People get hurt in WWE and sometimes they're like, he got hurt. Feel bad for him. He'll be back. Yet at times, namely the Matt Hardy situation and the Alex Reynolds from Wednesday night, where people feel like AEW should have done something. Are we holding them to a different standard to WWE, or is just the situation different?
I think the pinnacle thing is Matt Hardy. I don't think really nobody cared to this extent until we saw the Matt Hardy thing, and the fact that he, we made comments about it before. He doesn't even walk straight, and he's considerably older, and so much that we know that he could bring to that organization. The reason why he left WWE in the first place was to have more creative control and to kind of almost die off of a spot. Right. And for a considerable amount of, like, he's high commodity, whether he realizes it or not, much higher than he probably thinks. And it's basically literally what's inside of that brain that we're excited for when it comes to Matt Hardy, more than we are about what he can actually do inside the ring. So I think because of that, we pay attention to it a lot more, because, we almost watched Matt Hardy die. So I think now we're holding AEW to a higher standard, because it's now that we see that, it is becoming a little bit of a pattern. We know that AEW is a little bit more hands-off when it comes to wrestlers in terms of creativity and what they want to go out there and do. But this is kind of part of being hands-off. Like, you want to jump up a ladder? Okay. You know what I'm saying? You're the professional.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I was like, it seems because of that Matt Hardy thing, I can't remember the last time that we didn't took a company to task for these types of injuries and stuff like that. Before, we would just place it. I mean, look at how badly Nia Jax gets destroyed on Twitter for her unsafe work. That she's a risk in the ring. It's like, I think that AEW thing, especially with, I think the reason why it was so bad was because of the excuse that they gave us, with the concussion test.
Mm-hmm.
I think once the actual company took the step forward to talk about it, I think that's when the onus is like, maybe we should start talking to AEW and WWE and these guys about what the hell they're doing. And it's like, and sure enough, here we got Hell in a Cell on Sunday. So
I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And perceivably enough, like, I think we all believe that AEW listens to us more than the WWE does too.
yeah,
Right. I think definitely hold AEW to a different standard based on the promises, not only that they made, but ones we made for them, in a sense.
Yeah.
And felt like AEW should have known better kind of situation as it relates to especially Matt Hardy. And our empathy is just not there for WWE. We're pretty much at the point like, well, we expect the worst from you, so whatever.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're the company that had a guy die during a pay-per-view and you kept rolling. You had a guy allegedly kill his family the night before pay-per-view, and you kept going with that. You had
Did you just say
your announcer had a heart attack during the show, and you kept going.
I'm still stuck at the fact you said allegedly.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, we're part of the meeting. We got to use those words.
We got to, man.
Allegedly, you got to put the air.
If you listen or read the Bodega Boys new book, every other word is allegedly.
I gotta get that. I'm gonna probably buy that as soon as I get off.
Oh, it's worthy. It is so worthy. Even if you just need a break from the pandemic, it's amazing.
Well, I'm one of the breaks that I've had. The fact that the Joe Budden podcast is back on, and you can catch it everywhere. So it's like that's been kind of therapeutic for me. It's like that was my thing every Wednesday because I knew it was gonna be a long day, Monday, Wednesday, and just driving because I'm all over the city. It's like that's a good 2 hours that just goes away. I don't even think about these people falling.
All right.
Yeah, but I think my expectation is, as of right now, just the only thing I want to see differently right now is if the ref throws up the X's, the match is over.
Absolutely.
I think if the wrestler throws it up, it should be over. Kind of like what happened. I think his name Avar in that tag team match.
Okay, whoever throws up the X's means something real happened.
Right, you need to go.
We get it. We understand what that means. We get it. Stop the match.
Even the most novice wrestling fan knows that. It's like, oh shit. Oh shit.
And one thing I want to stop seeing, and it's only happened a couple times, but I definitely need to stop seeing it. Don't fake the X.
Yeah, no.
Don't use it as a work. Don't use it as a work.
Right.
It's only happened a couple times where they've done work shoots with the X. Let's not do that. All right. Cool. Well, while we're on the subject of AEW, Joey Janela was pulled from a recent show because he was exposed to COVID-19 when a wrestler from a weekend show that he did tested positive for COVID. Now, mind you, Joey Janela himself pulled himself out. Contrary to popular belief, AEW did not pull him out. He informed AEW that he was exposed and he was not going to show.
He did the responsible thing.
Right.
Good for him.
He was addressed by a fan who basically implied that he shouldn't have had to go to an indie show and AEW should pay him enough not to wrestle indie shows. Janela was quick to let him know that AEW plays me quite well. And I do indie shows for the love of the game and to get my ring time. As you know, in AEW, there's not like a performance center sitting in the back for everybody to get their ring time, nor do they do road shows, obviously, right now. So a lot of these wrestlers are getting their ring time on the road. So should these promotions be restricting their wrestlers from wrestling elsewhere to limit?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Organizations don't need to control people. They just need to control their interest.
Makes sense.
And that goes across the board for any industry. If you have COVID concerns, worry about the lock and the key at your front door. People are going to do what they're going to do, and we collectively as a whole have to figure out how life goes on from this point on, but life has to go on. And Joey Janela, to speak specifically to his situation, he did everything right. he did everything right. He knew he was near somebody who was exposed, pulled himself out of the show as to contain the spread. That's just the responsibility that we all have to have. And as far as AEW is concerned, all you need to worry about is whether or not they're going to let him back in or not. The rules should be for the house and not for the individuals. You also, like the week prior, you had Joey, Sonny, John Moxley, and Orange Cassidy attend a show in Indiana over the weekend that, saying that ended up having a mini COVID outbreak, right? But I'm not going to stop, as an organization, you shouldn't stop them from going out there, whether it is for the money or not. You know what I'm saying? Going out there, doing what they do, doing work. You just have to trust that they're going to move accordingly. And if you don't trust them, when they come back, you lock your door.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole independent contractor conversation again, right?
Exactly.
You can't keep them from controlling, but you can contain what's in-house as long as they're adhering. And Janela, very stand-up guy, went off and self-reported it. That's the responsible thing to do, because, I mean, that's going to ruin any type of relationship. Somebody that's going to be risky enough to say, well, I can't afford to be out for 2 weeks, with all these shows that I'm supposed to be hitting up. It's like, hey, and at this point, it's like life or death. So you got to really pay attention to that stuff. But that's the response. I mean, that's the right thing to do. Shut it down. If you can't be responsible about it, hey.
And that's what you have COVID protocols for. That's why you test everybody before they show up. And the frank answer is right now, and this is just legit, that if you don't have protocols in place, it's just my position, you shouldn't be running a company. That's just how I feel about it. Okay. And I know that's a budgetary matter that some can't, get with at the moment, which is probably why we don't have as many shows going on as we'd like right now. Mm-hmm. But that's what has to happen. Because I feel as a promoter, you do have an obligation to protect everyone who walks in your door. So everybody who walks in your door should know that, okay, my employer or, this company has done everything they could to make sure that I'm safe while in their environment. So that's that. So Joey Janela, thank you for being a stand-up dude. And also thank you for defending those who are making things happen right now, because I think he's one of the ones that understand how much wrestling is needed just from a mental health standpoint for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So thank you to Joey Janela. Also for diving off that goalpost at Marion Catholic Stadium.
Yeah.
For that alone, I love you. Oh, but what is funny is ESPN covered that as a halftime show for a high school football game. That guy gets fired, whoever set that up. Anyway. Disrespectful. All right. Dark Side of the Ring is coming back. Season 3. They haven't announced any topics yet. But which ones do you want to see?
I have a list.
There we go. Let's do it.
It's probably too soon to get to it right now. But
Never too soon.
If season 3 is a hit and we get to a season 4, we got to talk about Alberto Del Rio.
We could do him in 3. Why not 3?
Because
it's still pending. Because it's still pending. Okay, I got you.
Prison right
I got you.
Let that story play out and finish.
Yeah, let that story kind of finish because something else is going to happen while he's in prison. He's got to get there. But we got to know that story from beginning to end. I get down here the plane ride from hell.
I think you might get that in season 3.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
We got to talk about China.
100%. Especially talking about Eddie Les.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's good.
Another one that I kind of have an asterisk by, like Alberto Del Rio, because we still have to see how it plays out. But the speaking out movement.
I think that's a season 4 one as well.
Yeah. I get down here at Cactus Jack versus Terry Funk, the death match in Japan.
Ooh.
I want to see how that came together, and I want people to see exactly how crazy these two people are. I get down here the WWE steroid case. The federal
the WWE what?
The WWE the federal case for steroids and kind of the birth of the wellness policy.
Yeah.
Let's see if they can actually get a copy of the wellness policy.
And then finally, I just have any blatant exposure of racism at some point. Any one story, I don't care. We can talk about Hakeem. We can talk about Crime Time. I don't care. Like just a blatant acknowledgement that this company does racist stuff to get over, and why. So that's my list.
That's a good list.
That is a good list. I want to see. And I know it's too soon, and I don't care. I want to see the McMahons and Trump.
I'd be interested in that. I'm already interested in it, because that goes all the way back to WrestleMania 4 and 5.
No, well, maybe yeah. Actually, you might be right. Yeah, it goes back to Caesar's Palace and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that definitely needs to get
because it ends with opening into the political marriage between the WWE and certain governments, certain state governments, even the federal government.
Another one I'd like to see. Magnum TA.
I heard a rumor we're getting that one, but yeah.
That's what I'd like to see. And the last one I'd like to see is Sonny. Sonny just fits Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah.
And I like that option because there's a whole lot of people still around who can talk. Like I get in the that's unfortunate thought process when they talk about topics like Brody, the Brody story.
Yeah.
When unfortunately only a few people were able to speak on that. Like if that was done like 10 years ago, you probably have like a dozen more people who could talk about it. But Sonny has a good notch of people who can speak up on what had happened during.
There's some of the topics that are expected during the season. Grizzly Smith, Jake the Snake, Rockin' Robin, Sam Houston, the 1995 WCW and New Japan Collision in Korea event, and the death of Brian Pillman.
Okay, Brian Pillman's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
Grizzly, that's okay. That's going to be an interesting one.
Grizzly.
That's got to be a two-parter because that's got to flow into Grizzly story's got to flow into Jack Roberts story.
Yeah, they got the largest season count. They got 14 episodes this season. So yeah, it's a huge hit. They went from 6 episodes season 1, 10 this season 2, and now 14. So yeah.
And I apologize if I don't know this. They've done the Von Erichs, right?
Yeah, that was like the second or third episode.
I would do the Hart family.
I think they did like the last one they did was
Owen Hart. Yeah, they did.
But I'm saying or just do the Dungeon in general. Because you're talking about Davey Boy Smith, Dynamite Kid. Brett's story still needs to be told. And I know they did the screw job, whatever. But
yeah,
I'm just saying there's an over-encompassing story with the Hart family that needs to be told.
I don't see them because that's kind of tough, especially with the screw job and them talking about his brother. I'm pretty sure that's going to be.
Is that overkill? Is that overkill on the Hart family?
You had enough of us for your first 2 seasons.
Then I got to talk to him no more.
There's other families you can fuck with right now.
And I'm not saying it's ready yet. I think we got to maybe that's a season 4, season 5, but the click has to get done. I mean, that's a story in itself from beginning to end. Because that incorporates wrestling over the last 30 years. But either way, I'm excited. Vices. And I like Dark Side of the Ring because, A, you can do that safely.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
back on that one.
Those should be easy to pump out.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm actually going to make a conscious effort to watch the entire 3rd season. So that's going to be pretty dope. They did a real good job with all the stories.
So something happened over last week, and I say something happened because this is how I genuinely feel about it in retrospect. And I'll ask you this question. If no one watched the G1, because it's not on any kind of publicized TV in the States, or mainstream period, nor did anybody really report on it. I'm talking about the major people. No one really reported on the G1 why it happened. Did the G1 actually happen?
No. Yes and no. At least we have a point tally of what's going on over there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, no one. I mean, you got results, and you saw the highlights on like Twitter and stuff like that. But out of all the major, we'll say major, quote unquote, I don't know, what do we call these people? Wrestling journalists? I don't think we have any, but all these wrestling sites and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. No one was covering it. No one was giving updates. No one. So did this shit happen at all or what?
Well, I mean, it's hard. They're not allowing media over there, are they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Are we able to fly back and forth between?
Well, we're not able to fly back and forth, but that doesn't stop streaming from happening. I mean, you saw Lopez whoop your boy's ass. They was over.
First of all.
You squinted and everything, man. Went straight De Niro on me, man.
Motherfucker. Lopez. You didn't even know who the fuck Lopez was until you won the fucking fight.
No, I didn't. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly, so fuck off.
I was like, who's this fucker doing snow angels in the ring?
Don't start this shit, because if it turns into a boxing podcast, I will be talking 95% of the fucking time.
Yes, you will.
No, he deserves it. But what I don't like, again, we run into the corruptness of boxing. He doesn't own all the belts. Not one time did ESPN recognize the African American champion who holds the other belt in that division, Devin Haney. It took Teofimo Lopez at the end of it, like, oh, what's next? Well, maybe I should go get the 5th belt that's in this fucking division, holding it to the other champion, and actually recognize him. ESPN didn't do shit. They were blowing smoke up this Teofimo's ass, saying, oh, he's just like Roberto Duran. First of all, don't compare him to a legend. Fuck that. But it's like Devin Haney's sitting there, and he tweeted, he's like, I bet you they won't name me, they won't mention me on this fucking broadcast at all. That's just the politics of it, right? Top rank, golden boy, and all this shit. That's why Canelo's suing De La Hoya to get out of that shit so he can fight whoever he wants. Because there are some good fights for Canelo coming up too, if they can fucking get it done. But that's a whole fucking podcast. I don't.
You almost went into a whole podcast rant right there. You almost shifted gears on us.
you really reached for that one, and I was.
I was just waiting to set that up. I was waiting to set that up on
your boy. But like, you know what? He was my boy, and I was still rocking with Loma. It's just for some fucking stupid reason, he was waiting. I said it during the fight. I was like, wow, he's reminding me of fucking Adrian Broner here. What are you waiting for? Fucking swing. This guy is just tagging you, and he's scoring points left and right because he's the more active fighter. But that was a good-ass fight from round 7. I mean, the whole fight was fantastic. It was a clinic, but, man, and that was good. You can take it. It should be pretty fun watching him go up the ranks.
So that fight happened because we saw it, because it was promoted, and it was reported on.
Well, tomorrow.
But going back to the G1.
Yeah. Well, no, like even tomorrow, Dana White's got his fucking fight island starting at 4 o'clock Central. So
great.
I'm cool. I don't have to stay up till midnight to watch this fucking fight.
Yeah. But
PR is a job. We like to think, especially in this internet age, that there's really like this such thing as like plentiful, like organic growth and viral videos and all this stuff, but it's an actual job that people need to do. And we know that the CEO of New Japan Pro Wrestling is on his way out. He's probably not working right now. And I don't know about you, but most people, when their boss ain't working, they're not really going to be doing too much work either. I'm not sure what the structure is there, but you got to control your narrative out here. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they decided to lose the TV deal, and, you know, they decided they didn't want to be friends with anybody before this whole lockdown situation happened, and then the lockdown happens. You like, the internet is your only friend. It is a great equalizer, but you have to use it.
Well, isn't that one of the reasons why Harold's no longer in control right now, and that's why they're doing the entire?
Yeah, well, he I think maybe like Friday might have been his last day before they converted over. But I mean, how much are you actually doing if you know you're on your way out?
Nothing.
Right.
Exactly.
Nothing at all, and he's okay with it.
Nobody else is going. Nobody else is going to go into business for themselves or come up with their own ideas before the new boss comes in. So,
yeah, because this easily could have been put on Fight TV.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it already was, but I mean, it may have been. But obviously, we didn't know about it. And unfortunately, I just have to keep saying, since the Elite left, it just seems like, you know, most of the reporting sites that we're used to seeing just hasn't paid too much attention to New Japan.
Yeah, those guys would go and actually do interviews with American outlets.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have everybody over there right now that has the foresight to do that. I mean, they're doing their job in terms of being in Japan.
But I'm not even talking about American. I mean, even the UK. Because most of the guys that I watch or pay attention to as it relates to wrestling news per se, I get from the UK. Because, how I say, they're not Americanized, so it seems more fun to me. But, yeah, they didn't seem to mention it at all themselves.
I mean, it's the same thing. Like, it's like we're part of the media. Like, you know, we pick and choose topics that we want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure if we had organizations that wanted to give us information, we would lean our content more towards what they're giving us. But like, even us, like even us, we have a general interest, but there's not too much to say about it.
Right.
They do have their own streaming platform. I didn't use it this week.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like you'd be surprised. Like, I was having a conversation early this week, and I kind of posted in a very cryptic way on Facebook. But like, I go back to that movie Bird Box. Remember that movie Bird Box?
Yes, sir.
You saw that movie? Why did you see that movie?
Because everybody was doing the fucking the memes.
But how did we do that? Like, to me, it's still a conspiracy. To the extent of that media team, that social media marketing team, they really did their job, because 100 million of us saw that movie at the same time. And to this day, I still don't understand why. Other than the fact that PR is a job. And if there's nobody in that organization that's doing PR, there isn't going to be any general interest.
So I shouldn't watch it then?
No, you absolutely should go back and watch, like, who did the match between, oh my god, I can't think of it right now. One of those matches started out with like 20 minutes of people of both of them just kicking the hell out of each other.
Oh, you talking about the G1? Oh, the G1 was nice.
Oh, I thought you were talking about. I was talking about Bird Box.
Oh, okay.
No, that's
yeah, of course, we're gonna go back and watch the G1.
Yeah, it was Kota Ibushi and the guy he beat before he got to Sonata. Another kicking dude, but yeah, they
kicked
the match. The match was like, it was like 95% kicks, a suplex attempt, and the finish. And that's it. It was nothing but kicks. It was amazing. It was a god awful match, like amazing match.
The Okada Ospreay match was good too.
Yeah, with the turn and everything.
Very nicely done too. The turn.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna have some fun here. I'm gonna steal the screen for a second because I want to show you guys something.
Mm-hmm.
You better make sure it's age
Appropriate.
Well, it doesn't matter. We don't have an age appropriate for this YouTube video, so go ahead.
Oh, you gotta enable it for me, sir.
Damn you! It doesn't. Oh, here we go. It's enabled.
It says host disabled, participant screen sharing.
I don't see it.
Anyway, fine. I just talk about that. When you get a chance, look up the logo for the Capitol Wrestling Center, which is where NXT resides now. And once you've done that, then look up the logo for the Cruiserweight Classic.
What was it? It was Capital. Maybe I can just go ahead and check it out real quick.
Capitol Wrestling Center. Just laziness, man. And I was wondering when they first came out, like, why did they come up with Capitol Wrestling Center? I was like, where did they come up with Capitol Wrestling Center from? And then I started looking at it. I was like, man, this logo looks familiar as hell.
It has something to do with it's I can't think of it right now, but this is Triple H being a wrestling nerd.
Okay.
This has something to do with like Capitol. That might have been a Capitol Center or something, like from a long time ago.
Okay.
has something to do with wrestling, but this is definitely him being a wrestling nerd. Now, like the logo is pretty lazy.
But I just thought it was funny when I noticed that
Give you
today. I was
that,
like,
and the fact that it's actually called Wrestling Center is actually pretty trolling too.
It's a throwback to the origins of WWE, which began in '53 as the Capital Wrestling Corporation.
Yes.
And there
Okay.
are different versions on who founded the company. Some people say it was Jess McMahon, the grandfather to Vincent, while others say that it was the father, Vincent McMahon. So that's pretty sad.
Typical.
Yeah, but it's impossible to ignore that it's an homage to the original logo of the WWE. So that's interesting.
lazy, creative, at it again.
Copy and paste. That's what it should have been. The fucking that kind of looks like the command logo for on a MacBook when you're cutting and pasting.
All right, we have 2 pay-per-views this weekend. Do we care about either one?
No, I got the World Series to watch.
I'm mildly interested in
Bound.
yeah, no, Bound for Glory. That Bound for Glory is probably going to be a fun show. I don't think Kylie's getting the title. I think Jordan Grace is.
And I do want to point out, because I've already heard some rumblings on Twitter. Not that matters of anything in the world, but, comparing this to Tessa winning a title. And this is a very different scenario.
No, this has nothing to do.
Yeah, this is a very different scenario. So don't shit on Jordan Grace.
I kind of want to see the Roman and Jay, just to see what it looks like. You've done a really good job with it so far. So just to see what happens, and if the Usos end up being managed in some type of little tribe that they're going to form with Paul Heyman, which would be pretty dope. So I'll give that a watch.
Yeah, that match is going to be amazing. Bayley and Sasha is probably going to be dope as well. This is the first Elimination Chamber that we've gotten. Well, Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that we gotten 3 different chamber matches in it.
If you say Elimination Chamber one more time.
Hell in a Cell.
Keep saying it, and it's going to happen like Candyman. It's going to pop up.
Like, yo, what's going on, man?
Yeah, but we haven't gotten a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view with 3 Hell in a Cells in a long time, if ever.
I feel like Sasha can't win the title because this story ain't done for some dumb reason.
I thought there was a 4th one.
There's a 4th match, but I don't think it's a Hell in a Cell match. Roman.
Don't quote me on it. I want to say
there's Roman, there's Randy, and then there's Sasha.
If I'm not mistaken, the Jeff Hardy one is a Hell in a Cell.
That's a Hell in a Cell match? No.
I thought it was. Don't quote me on it. I thought I read it somewhere that they kind of upped the ante on that one.
No, I think there's no DQ.
There's a no DQ, right?
Yeah. It does have some stipulation. You're right, but I don't think it's
a stipulation. Right?
I don't think it's a cell. I think it's a no DQ or something like that.
Yeah, either way.
It has potential to be a good card. It definitely has some good match pairings on it. So I'll be mildly interested to see how that plays out, highlights, and maybe even the finishes. I'm with you, Sean. I'm kind of confused on what's going to happen with Bayley and Sasha. Because they have to start. We'll talk about this on the next show, but WrestleMania is coming up, and they're gonna mess it up.
Isn't the next one Survivor Series?
Survivor Series. Yeah, and that's when you usually start seeing WrestleMania take shape. I definitely feel at this point, Orton's gonna win tomorrow. I mean Sunday, and McIntyre gets his his rematch at Survivor Series. And then, some throwaway, title defense for Randy Orton at whatever the December pay-per-view is.
You think he's going to get a rematch at Survivor Series?
Yeah, he'll get a rematch right away.
I thought Survivor Series was Brand versus Brand.
Yeah, but it's not going to be everybody.
Yeah,
It's
not
going to be
everybody.
big carders.
You're not going to put Roman versus. Yeah, you can't put Roman versus Randy.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think you're going to get that this year. I don't think you're going to get that brand thing this year. I just think because of COVID, you're not going to get the brand thing this year.
Yeah,
you're going to try to keep everybody in their own wrestling bubble. So everybody only wrestles the people that they wrestle.
NXT is not touching Survivor Series this year.
Yeah, I envision like a separate takeover or whatever case may be, if there is even one. But yeah, because they're gonna start pivoting towards Randy versus this long story of him if Edge somehow. So Randy's gonna eventually get that belt.
I mean, you can only lose so many times in the past 7 months.
That's what I'm saying. Like you can't lose every single damn time. It's just fucking insane.
You could go ask what's his face. Who was the one with the 90-something losing streak?
Oh, was that was that Hawkins?
That was Hawkins, right?
Yeah.
I think it got up to like 200 something, didn't it? Before he won?
I don't know. I gave him a little bit of respect and low shot it. I knew he was up there, but you know, he seems like a nice guy.
And then obviously there are going to be some throwaway matches added to this damn thing. Because it's 4 matches currently official.
Yeah, like I said,
obviously tonight there's going to be added something else. Probably a tag team stupid match. Whatever.
I'm going to be watching the World Series. This has been a really good World Series so far. Playoffs, baseball playoffs, to sidetrack. Baseball playoffs need to be like this every year from now on. Absolutely.
And what do you, be specific, what do you mean by like this?
The expanded playoffs where the first round, like not every single match except for this, they give them 1 day off here. Every single baseball game has been played back to back the days, not where you play 2 days, you're off for 2 days and shit like that. There's been consistent baseball since October 1st, and I'm all for it. That way they don't have to sit here and play into the middle of November like the Cubs did when they won it. Fucking snowing. It's like it's really.
Boy.
I've been a fan of it. Big fan of it. But yeah, I mean, I'll give it. I'll probably do the split screen. Watch a little bit of this. Watch a little bit of that. I am gonna watch the Kylie Ray match on Bound for Glory. That's something I did write down.
I definitely think that's going to be a potential weekend stealing match.
Yeah,
that's something that people should be looking out for. That could be a weekend stealing match.
Yeah, I'm down.
The rest of the card I could give a damn about, to be honest with you, because can you even name who the Impact World Champion is right now?
Women's?
Men's.
Isn't it Chris Bay?
No.
Wait.
No, it's Eric Young.
Eric Young. There we go.
Who is supposed to face?
I'm more interested in what's going on with EC3 than anything.
EC3 is a story that needs to be told in general right now. EC3 is a guy wrestling for 2 American brands at the same time. And it either lends to whatever unique contract status EC3 has right now, or someone's making friends and they don't want to tell us yet.
Well, the 2 names that I say, I've always said, I always felt will ever go back to Impact Wrestling, and Impact just needs to just grovel, would be AJ Styles and EC3. So, let EC3 do whatever he wants to do. Not surprised. He should do it. The only thing I'm holding out for is that he hasn't been in the ring yet.
No, and that is very interesting that in either case he has not been in the ring yet.
So they're on the ROH side, they're booking a 6-man tag so far. which I'm very interested in. But outside of that, yeah, he's getting a lot of leeway for not actually being inside of a ring. Very interesting.
And just real quick, I know I spoke of the G1 tournament, basically non-existing because there's no coverage. But I just want to let you ponder with the fact that the ROH Pure tournament is going to be in its finals next week.
I've been seeing very little coverage of it on Twitter. Very little.
I literally, they have episodes and everything.
That's a Fight TV product as well.
Bruh.
PR is a job. And that job is not being done well right now.
I want to paint this picture. These are the fights. These are the matches that we did not see. Matt Sydal versus Jermaine Gresham. That happened. Yet, nah. No one thought it was an idea that we should see that match for some reason. Lethal versus David Finlay. These should be marquee matches in my opinion.
You think it's a Sinclair thing, or the fact that they're sharing contact between Sinclair and Fight, that they're just barred from
man
putting together 15-second clips and put it on Twitter?
I don't know, but
giving one away on YouTube.
Considering where they were when 2019 ended, and the fact that at least in what we were given the impression of, this pure tournament was supposed to be the reintroduction of ROH to the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, nothing, the bracket is literally the first page when you go to their website. So it's a big deal to them. But for some reason, they haven't thought of it as a good idea to make it a big deal to us. Oh, and Rush's and Dragon Lee's contract is up at the end of the month, by the way. And they're both the champions. Just to paint that picture.
An ugly picture you just painted us.
They are the world and TV champions, respectively.
And they're also very, very, very great at what they do.
And they're brothers. Just saying.
Playing with these guys. I don't know why.
They are brothers. So, yeah. I'm just saying, I don't get it. And, we all thought things would get better when Marty took the wheel, but obviously, speaking out was a thing.
Didn't Marty have to he took a step back, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He had to take a step back, but that doesn't stop him from running the show. You know what I'm saying? From behind the scenes.
At least sharing his vision with somebody else that could step up.
Correct.
I don't know. A lot of these movements, a lot of these incidents like that, seem to just disappear for a while.
There are a lot of people who've come back after their moment, we'll call it right now. Yes, most of them are in the WWE, but Josh Briggs thinks he can get a haircut and us forget that he was a part of it too, but that's fine. He got a haircut and changed his last name, but we're supposed to forget that. A whole bunch of little girls.
I got a haircut.
And I don't even know.
I'm still pissed off about that Lopez comment.
It's okay. It's going to be 6 months later next summer. He's going to pop me upside the head. What you got to say now?
Like your cut, G.
It's going to hit me with a fucking sub-T salami sandwich.
No, I'm just going to eat it right in front of you. I'm going to slap you on the floor and I'm going to slow eat it. Make eye contact while I'm eating the sandwich. And then I'm going to bust out the onion rings. Eat one by one. Slowly.
One by one.
With the face on. I really don't have an excuse why I used a Robert De Niro face.
It really was a natural thing that just came up on your face immediately.
I think I'm still getting used to the fact that you can actually see me now. That the MacBook camera. I got this new webcam thanks to Rod's recommendation, and I was like, I could see my face. I'm like, oh shit! When I was doing it, I was like, oh, I really saw it.
Very nice.
There's light on in my house. It's like there's never light on in my house. I don't like it. cut my power bill in half this month, damn it. All right.
Shorty G just quit. Just saying.
Well, they referred to him as Chad Gable the other day. Did he actually just
not in the ring? He said I'm done.
Oh.
After Lars Sullivan beat him up, he quit.
That's a shitty way.
What do you want us to do, Chad? What do you want us to do?
What do I want us to do?
We asked this question, damn you. Weren't you listening, Chad? What can we do?
I'm gonna tweet you from We Are the Wisemen. We Are the Wisemen on Twitter. Gonna have a conversation with Chad Gable. What do you want us to do, man?
We never once referred to you as Shorty G on this podcast. We gave you the respect. Then you come out wearing John Cena's get-up from his Thugonomics days. Because they're just sitting there in the back.
I just hope my first thought is not what's going to happen and that him and Austin Theory are going to form a tag team. Because Austin Theory quit on NXT this week as well.
That'd be nice. But I also kind of felt like your idea was the Evolve takeover. That's
the best idea ever, in my opinion. I don't care. Austin Theory coming back with like Josh Briggs, Kurt Stallion. There's
JD Drake.
Yeah, like a whole bunch. Brandy Lauren, all of them. just come with like all of them. Leon Ruff, him too. Just come squad it up. And the first thing you do is beat the crap out of fucking Undisputed Era.
I'm with it.
Wrestling hasn't had a good invasion era angle in a very long time.
And the WWE is yet to do one correctly.
Shit. Show.
You can follow us on Twitter at We Are the Wisemen. Find us everywhere else at Wiseman Wrestling Podcast. We want to smoke.
Man. I had time all day today. I had time all day on the Twitter.
You want to talk about wrestling? You want to talk about politics? I don't think there's nothing off the table.
I was wondering who the fuck was going nuts on the fucking. I started getting all the notifications on Discord. I'm like, man, somebody's fucking tweeting today.
Mm-hmm.
Let me dust this. As my first clue was Sean. Is like, let me dust this thing off. I'm like, oh, that's Sean. Oh, Sean's in his bag.
I'm in my bag.
Lovely.
But I know when to flow from one account to the other, not to get anybody in trouble.
Thank you.
This is definitely something I should say for my Twitter.
Thank you, Kevin Durant, for teaching us how to run burner accounts properly.
You're correct.
He said the other day, too, he wished he still had his burner account.
He did.
All you got to do is restart it, bro.
He did.
All I got to do is make a new one. Oh, he's funny.
Rest in peace, Quibi. We barely knew you.
Yo, and the fucked up thing about this whole thing is T-Mobile just gave us a free 6-month subscription to it.
They did.
And now it's fucking over.
They had some good ideas, too. That's sad. But anyway.
No.
Gerard was signing us out, and we, interrupt him.
Yeah. Well, let's give him our attention. Because
my son is over here talking about some shh.
You look like you've been stiff arming JB for like the last 20 minutes. Because I've seen you're like kind of leaning this way. I'm like, oh shit. JB's making his cameo appearance at the end of the show as always.
Right. Oh, he's trying to hijack the show.
That's when you know the show's over.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing like Matthew. Matthew will just come in like this. Are you guys on the podcast? Like leaning into the mic. Yeah, get the fuck away. This is daddy's time.
Just remember that this podcast isn't forever before the culture. Remember that you vote with your dollars. Your attention is currency. And even if you are a mark, make sure you leave a positive mark on this life.
Good night.
Good night, motherfucker.